Morning everyone. Here we have a C220 again, Cabriolet. So this is the one we did last time. We scanned, we came up with two sensors that were faulty, so we changed them out after this thing had been for a flood. Driven through it, not stopped in it, but enough. We now have front parking sensor issues as well as rear parking sensor issues. So it comes on, it disconnects, goes away again. Now we've got faults with 1 and 3. Now we've got 6 across the front again, or is it? Yeah, 6 across the front. So I'm guessing it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But we've got faults with sensors 1 and 3. So it's either this one. Oh, actually, that doesn't look too healthy. That looks like it's bent in. So 1 and 3, or 1 and 3 that side. But we've got 2 of them that are causing a problem. So we're going to take the bumper off, clean everything out, disconnect everything, have a look at the connections and go from there, because this is a problem. But also, I wanted to discuss something because Nige mentioned a very good point this morning and I wanted to show you. So we were talking about the salvage guys using their solder sticks. Electrica pack, basically, same shit, different bucket. Now, when you are using, let me pop this up here so I can show you. When you are using these things, let me give you a little hands-on demonstration, because it's quite interesting, right? Let me get this over here. So these are what we call, or what people call, solder sticks. So it's a little bit of heat shrink that has a sealant core, that's the yellow bit, left and right, and then in the middle there is a small band of solder. Okay, now what I was basically saying, so let me give you a brief demonstration. Okay, now soldering iron is just warming up. Now what you should normally do, best practice, is we just strip our cables. Okay, I've got myself a little solder holder here and you'll see what I mean in a minute. Obviously you can't use this all the time in a car, it's appreciated, but I'm going to give you a demonstration anyway. So the correct way to solder a cable, we use solder that has flux inbuilt. Okay, gone are the days of smearing it in a pot of flux to get the solder to stick to the cable. It's usually kept internally. Hey, quiet on set, I'm making a fucking video here. Right, so we get our 2 pieces like this. Now normally you get your little solder. Again, this has flux which is inbuilt. Okay, and that's just obviously something you can go between. So this is 1.2 millimeters squared, and it's got flux internal. So what you would do is you would warm up your soldering iron, you get your little solder sort of cup started, and then you'd run solder into the wire like this until it melts in. Now this will give you, you'll see, the solder instantly takes to the cable. Okay, this gives you good penetration. Dan, stop laughing. So we go backwards and forwards until the solder is in. You make it quite heavy. Now normally, I know we do a lot of twisting on this channel. It's not necessarily the done thing. Some people will say it's bad practice. I don't mind it, it works, okay? But what we would normally do is you would run 2 cables together like this on your soldering machine. You would line them up. Let me just get this in situ. So we've got the 2 cables soldered in there, and then what we'd do is we'd dab on a bit of solder, you'd run the solder iron underneath, and then you'd add more solder in. So technically your 2 cables then become 1. Okay, so we've soldered this one, we've soldered this one, and then we've soldered the bit in together, and then you'd basically slide some heat shrink over this. Now you see underneath there, this is something to be careful of. You see that little arrow, that point? You need to get rid of that, because if you're using heat shrink or something, when you heat the core down, that will poke out and could short out. So that's technically how you should solder. Good penetration, good weld, if you will, good solder, and then obviously we put heat shrink or tape or amalgamating tape around that. Now what we were talking about, these things, okay, these solder sticks, is when you use them, they do not generate enough solder in the middle to give you good penetration like we have here. Okay, they will just literally stick around the edges, and if it's a not enough seepage, not enough soak, then what you get is you get a weak solder joint, and by that I mean it will be a dry solder joint, so the contact, the electricity won't pass through this properly, and then you'll have resistance issues. Okay, now when using these things, I did mention, let me just grab it out. If you were going to use a heat gun, which is the correct way of doing it, let me just add in my heat gun. Oh, and what we'll do is we'll add the solder stick to this connection, and I'll show you what I mean. So now we've got that joined anyway, right? We can slide that over, and we just move that clip back a little bit. There we go. What you would do is you would tin your wires first off, and then you would aim your solder stick, see that, to the center of the join. Okay, now if you do it properly with a heat gun, this is what happens. Okay, watching. So you'll see that the solder has kind of gone downhill, so it's moved away from our solder part, but it's melted. Okay, we've got the waterproof connection which has shrunk onto the cabling to stop moisture getting into our solder. Okay, and we've got still the band intact, but most of the solder has fallen out that side. If you are soldering this thing at that angle, this is what you need to be careful of, because it will pretty much run away from your join and end up somewhere down here in the cable, okay, which is not good. And because we've used a heat gun, let me just undo this for a second. Admittedly, we have already soldered the connection in the center, but that's how I'd recommend you do it. Now if I tug on this, right, I'm just going to get some grip, and I'm quite a strong chap. If I get some tug on this, I physically cannot pull that apart, right? And I'm not, that's not a camera trick. I am really giving that a shit, and I can't get it apart. But watch this. If we use a flame on this thing, and I'm just going to do this with a piece of cable, right? So we will do this now bare. So I'll get my two pieces. Okay, so it's still no trickery, same cable. All right, twist up the end, twist up the end. That goes in there. That goes in there. All right, so there's our connection. Now if I get the same piece out, so I've not tinned up these cables, we slide this on. I slide that on, right? I make our two connections in the center, so you can see we've got our band solder in the middle and our two wires. Right, now watch this. You'll see all these people on the internet, they do this with a lighter, and this is why I mean it's bad, right? So we're going to overheat this cable, we're going to overheat this join, so instantly, right, I've added way too much heat to this cable. You'll see already I'm superheating it. Right, I'm just going to stop it there. So we've basically melted the join because we've used naked flames. All right, the solder has taken, but our protection layer is now gone, and you'll even see that actually on the base of the holder, can you see that there? Look, solder fell out of it. So we've superheated this strip. Right, now we'll just let this come out. Now because we've superheated it, can you see that? I've not even tugged on this full strength yet. Look at that. See, the cable has gone to jello, the solder has not taken, and actually what we've just tried to achieve is now, look how rubbery it is because it's been superheated. Right? I can literally pull that apart, look, with my fingers. It's cold enough to touch, but look, it's done absolutely nothing. Right? If you're going to use these things, you need to pre-solder your wires, and you do not use a lighter or an open naked flame because they do not take. Can you see the solder around the outside? But the inside, look at that, look, nothing around it. So it's soldered the outside but nothing internally. That's not connected. And actually, because this melted too hot, you can just rubbery, it's gone rubbery, and you can just look, you can just pick the thing off. If I grab hold of the end of that, using my pliers because my fingers can't get in, but let me grab the end of this solder stick. No, it's gone to mush. Look, it's completely loose. Look, that's why I do not rate these things as good, because you see so many people getting a lighter out and doing a quick solder job, a quick heat job. They don't work, and once you've superheated them, they go rubbery. All right, so in the right way, they're good, all right? But you can easily get these things wrong. So that's solder sticks. Still can't pull it apart. Yeah, no. Cool, hope that helps. Right everyone, that's it for a Friday. Pleased to announce the merc has just been picked up. We've cleaned with some white wine vinegar. Got rid of all the corrosion. Oiled, greased, dried, blown all the water out the connectors, sealed them back together, cleared all the codes, took it for a test drive. No faults, nothing. Before it come up, it faulted, and then as we drove it, the fault went away. But this time, no faults, straight in, working like a champ, no issues. So we are good on that one. I'm gonna call that as a win. Hey GoPro, you're funny.
GoPro went, yeah, no.
Yeah, no. So tomorrow, Saturday working, we've got Paul coming in with his truck. Got a head unit and a subwoofer to do on a truck tomorrow, an actual grabbing truck. Sarah's KA, she's coming in with, we've got face kit to do for her and a Singleton Kenwood, and then we've got Sarah with the A3 coming back in. We've got to check the amp turn on, the bulb on the back, and head unit swap. Where's the head unit?
Hasn't been delivered. We haven't had a delivery.
I'm going to ring them now then, find out where that is, because that needs to be here for tomorrow. Shit. Right, see you in a bit everyone.